Hey everyone, welcome back to the Archetype Archive, your honest space to understand relationships, people, and maybe most importantly, yourself. I'm Maya.
And I'm Jordan. And today we're talking about something that might make you feel a little uncomfortable.
Ooh, starting strong.
Because today's topic is about the confusing moment when someone says they care about you, but their actions say, please don't come closer.
Yes, or when you find yourself doing that exact thing to someone you, actually really like.
Pushing people away while secretly hoping they'll stay.
It's one of the most human contradictions in relationships. And before we go deeper, we just want to say thank you.
Really, thank you for being here, for listening, for sharing your stories in the comments.
Every time someone writes, "This is exactly what I needed to hear," or "I thought I was the only one," it reminds us why we do this.
Because relationships are messy and beautiful and confusing, and we're all just trying to figure it out together.
And lately, we've been seeing one question again and again in the comments.
Yeah, people ask, why do I sabotage good relationships? Or why does my partner seem distant when things get close?
And if you've ever asked yourself these questions, please know you're not broken.
You're not damaged. You're human. And there's actually a psychological explanation for this.
It's called attachment styles, and understanding yours might change how you see every relationship in your life.
Not just romantic relationships either.
No, friendships, family, even how you relate to yourself.
So this is a B2 level episode, which means don't worry if you miss a word or two. Just relax and let the conversation flow.
And later, we'll have our word journey, where we revisit the key vocabulary from today in a calm, clear way.
Very calm, very clear. Unlike most relationship conversations.
Exactly. So if you enjoy learning about psychology and relationships through, real, honest conversations like this, don't forget to subscribe.
And hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people who might need this episode.
And here's our little task for today. If you recognize yourself in anything we talk about, comment the word seen below.
Just one word. SEEN. It tells us you're here and you're listening.
All right, let's begin. Jordan, I have a story.
I'm ready.
Last week, my friend Sophie called me at 11 p.m.
That's late. Was everything okay?
Well, she met someone, a really nice guy. They'd been on 4 dates.
4 dates. That's past the awkward phase.
Exactly. Things were going well. They had great conversations, similar values, real chemistry.
So what's the problem?
After their 4th date, he texted her saying he had a wonderful time and wanted to see her again soon.
That sounds perfect. What did Sophie say?
She read the message, felt her heart racing, put her phone face down on the table, and didn't reply for 3 days.
3 days.
3 whole days.
But she liked him.
She really liked him. That was the problem.
Okay, now I'm confused. If she liked him, why didn't she reply?
That's what she asked me. She said, quote, "Maya, why am I like this? Every time someone gets close, I run away."
And what did you tell her?
I asked her what she was afraid of.
That's a good question.
At first, she said, quote, "Nothing. I'm not afraid." But then, after a few minutes, she said something really honest.
What did she say?
She said, "I'm afraid that if he really knows me, he'll realize I'm not worth staying for."
Wow. That's deep.
It really is. And I think a lot of people feel this way, but never say it out loud.
So instead of letting someone close enough to potentially reject them, they reject the person first.
Exactly. If you push them away, you stay in control of the pain.
That's what psychologists call a protective mechanism.
Right. If something is a protective mechanism, it's a behavior your mind uses to keep you safe from emotional pain, even if that behavior actually causes, different problems.
It's like emotional armor.
Yes, the armor protects your heart, but it also stops connection from getting in.
I think we all do this sometimes, don't we?
Absolutely. Some people do it with humor. They make jokes whenever a conversation gets too real.
Oh, I know someone like that. Every time I try to have a serious talk, they change the subject or make a joke.
Others become busy. Suddenly they have no time to meet, no time to talk,
The classic, I'm really busy right now excuse.
which sometimes is true, but sometimes it's protection.
And some people pick fights.
Yes, that's a big one. Things are going well, so they find something to argue about.
Because if there's conflict, there's distance, and distance feels safer.
Exactly. This connects to attachment theory. Have you heard of this?
A little bit. It's about how we learned to connect with people when we were children, right?
Yes. Basically, the way our caregivers responded to us as babies shapes how we approach relationships as adults.
So, if your parents were consistently warm and responsive, you learn that people are safe.
Right. But if your needs were sometimes met and sometimes ignored, you learn that love is unpredictable.
And if your emotions were dismissed or you were left alone a lot, you learn to rely only on yourself.
Exactly. These early experiences create our attachment style.
And there are different types.
Yes, there are four main attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful-avoidant.
Let's talk about the secure one first because that sounds nice.
It is nice. People with secure attachment feel comfortable with, intimacy and independence.
So they can be close to someone without losing themselves?
Yes, and they can be apart without panicking that the relationship is ending.
That sounds healthy.
It is. They trust that people who care about them will stay. And if someone leaves, they believe they'll be okay.
I want that.
We all do, but only about 50% of people have secure attachment.
So half of us are walking around with, like, complicated attachment patterns?
Basically, yes.
What about anxious attachment?
Anxious attachment is when you crave closeness, but constantly worry it will disappear.
So you're always checking if the person still likes you?
Yes, you might text a lot, need reassurance, feel anxious when they don't reply quickly.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. People with anxious attachment often feel like they love more than they're loved.
Oh, that's sad.
It is. And it often comes from inconsistent caregiving as a child. Sometimes love was there, sometimes it wasn't. So you're always trying to make sure it doesn't disappear.
What about avoidant attachment? Is that the one where you push people away?
Yes, people with avoidant attachment value independence very highly. They feel uncomfortable when someone gets too close.
Like Sophie.
Exactly like Sophie. They want connection, but when it actually arrives, they feel trapped or suffocated.
So they create distance to feel safe again.
Right. This often develops when children learn that expressing needs leads to rejection or dismissal.
So they learn to need no one.
Exactly. They become self-reliant, but deep down, they still want connection. They just don't trust it.
That's really lonely, isn't it?
It can be, because you want love, but you can't let it in.
And what's fearful-avoidant?
That's the most conflicted attachment style. It's also called disorganized attachment.
Why conflicted?
Because you desperately want closeness, but you also desperately fear it.
So you're caught between two opposite needs.
Yes, you might pursue someone intensely, but then when they reciprocate, you panic and pull away.
That sounds really confusing for everyone involved.
It is, and it's usually rooted in trauma or very inconsistent early relationships.
So the person who was supposed to protect you was also the person who hurt you.
Exactly. Love becomes associated with both safety and danger.
Wow. So how do you break these patterns?
That's the important question, isn't it? Because awareness is the first step, but it's not the only step.
Right. Knowing you have avoidant attachment doesn't automatically make you stop avoiding
No, but it helps you notice the pattern while it's happening.
instead of after the relationship ends.
Yes, you start to recognize your triggers.
Triggers. That's an important word. A trigger is something that activates an emotional response based on past experiences.
Right. So, for someone with avoidant attachment, a trigger might be when their partner says, I love you for the first time.
Because that level of intimacy feels dangerous?
Exactly. And instead of automatically pulling away, they can pause and think, okay, I'm feeling scared right now. This is my attachment pattern, not the reality of this person.
That pause is so powerful.
It really is. That pause creates choice. You can still pull away if you want, but now you're doing it consciously, not automatically.
What about anxious attachment? How do you work with that?
For anxious attachment, the work is learning to self-soothe.
Self-soothe. That means calm yourself down because you need someone else to do it for you, right?
Exactly. When you feel anxious about the relationship, instead of immediately texting them 10 times, you pause.
And do what?
You might journal. You might call a friend. You might ask yourself, quote, what evidence do I have that this person is leaving me?
Usually the answer is none.
Usually. The anxiety is coming from the past, not the present.
That's such an important distinction.
It is. Your nervous system is reacting to old wounds, not current reality.
I think a lot of relationship problems come from this, actually.
Absolutely. We're not really fighting with the person in front of us. We're fighting with our history.
That's intense.
But also hopeful, because if you understand your history, you can change your reactions.
You can rewire your patterns.
Yes, and this is where earned secure attachment comes in.
Earn secure attachment. I like that phrase.
It means you didn't start with secure attachment, but through therapy, self-work, and healthy relationships, you develop it.
So you're not stuck with your attachment style forever?
No, this is so important. Attachment styles can change.
That's really hopeful.
It is, but it takes conscious effort. You have to do the work.
What kind of work?
Therapy helps a lot, especially attachment-based therapy or EMDR.
EMDR. That's a type of trauma therapy, right?
Yes, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It helps process traumatic memories so they're less triggering.
And what about outside of therapy?
Building awareness, noticing your patterns in real time, communicating your needs clearly instead of expecting people to read your mind.
That's a big one. Quote, if you loved me, you would know what I need.
Yes, that's such a common belief, but it's not fair.
Because people aren't mind readers.
Exactly. Even people who love you deeply need you to communicate clearly.
So instead of getting upset that they didn't notice you were sad, you actually say, quote, I'm having a hard day and I need support.
Yes, radical honesty.
I love that phrase, radical honesty. It means being completely truthful, even when it feels vulnerable.
And vulnerability is where connection actually happens.
But it's so scary.
It is. Because when you're vulnerable, you risk being hurt.
But if you're never vulnerable, you risk being lonely.
Exactly. You have to choose which risk you're willing to take.
That's deep, Maya.
I'm feeling philosophical today.
You know what's interesting? I think a lot of relationships struggle because of mismatched attachment styles.
Oh, absolutely. Like when an anxious person dates an avoidant person.
That sounds like a disaster.
It can be, because the anxious person pursues and the avoidant person withdraws.
So the more one person chases, the more the other person runs?
Yes, it's called the anxious-avoidant trap.
That's such a good name for it.
The anxious person thinks, they're pulling away, so I need to hold on tighter. And the avoidant person thinks, they're too clingy, I need more space. So they're both...
Triggering each other's worst fears.
Exactly. The anxious person fears abandonment, and the avoidant person fears being controlled or trapped.
Can that kind of relationship work?
It can, but both people need a lot of self-awareness and communication.
The anxious person needs to give space without panicking.
And the avoidant person needs to move toward intimacy, even when it feels uncomfortable.
That sounds really hard.
It is. but it's possible. I've seen it work when both people are committed to growth.
What about two anxious people together?
That can be very intense. Lots of emotion, lots of reassurance seeking.
Sounds overwhelming.
It can be, or it can feel very validating because both people understand the need for closeness.
And two avoidant people?
Yeah, they might never actually get together.
They're both waiting for the other person to make the first move?
Exactly. Or they create a very independent relationship where they barely see each other.
Which might work for them.
It might, as long as both people are happy with that level of distance.
The best pairing is probably two secure people.
Yes, that tends to be the most stable and satisfying.
But since only 50% of people are secure, those pairings are less common.
Right, which is why working on your attachment style is so important. You can't control other people, but you can work on yourself.
And when you become more secure, you attract more secure people.
Exactly. Like attracts like.
I think that's a good place to talk about Sophie again.
Oh, yes, Sophie. I never finished the story.
What happened after she didn't reply for 3 days?
Well, the guy sent one more message. He said, "Hey, I'm getting the feeling you need some space. No pressure, but I really enjoyed our time together. Let me know if you'd like to meet again."
Wow. That's a very secure response.
Right? He didn't chase her, he didn't get angry, he just stated his interest and gave her space to decide.
How did Sophie feel reading that?
She said it made her cry.
Really?
Yes, because nobody had ever responded to her avoidance with such calm understanding.
Most people get angry or hurt.
Exactly. But he just stayed steady.
So what does she do?
She called me, we talked for an hour about her patterns, and then she texted him back.
What does she say?
She was honest. She said, "I'm sorry for going silent. I really like you, and that scares me. I have a pattern of pushing people away when I start to care. I'm working on it, but I wanted you to know it's not about you."
Wow, that's really vulnerable.
It is. And you know what he said?
What?
He said, "Thank you for sharing that. We all have patterns. Let's figure it out together."
That's beautiful.
It really is. And that's what healthy relationships look like. Not perfect people, just people willing to be honest and work through things.
So, they're still dating?
They are. And Sophie still gets the urge to run sometimes.
But she notices it now.
Yes, she'll tell him, "I'm feeling scared right now. I need to take a walk, but I'll call you tonight."
That's such growth.
It is. She's not running away completely. She's just taking space while staying connected.
That's the balance, isn't it? Independence and connection.
Exactly. You can have both. You don't have to choose.
I think that's what secure attachment really is.
Yes, the ability to be yourself while being close to someone else
Not losing yourself in the relationship.
and not building walls to keep the relationship out.
Just being human together.
Just being human together. I love that.
You know, Maya, I think a lot of people listening might be realizing things about themselves right now.
I hope so, because this isn't about blaming yourself or feeling broken.
It's about understanding.
Yes, your attachment style makes sense based on what you experienced.
And understanding is the first step to changing.
Exactly. You can't change what you don't see.
So, if someone listening recognizes themselves in anxious attachment, what's one thing they can do today?
Practice pausing before seeking reassurance. When you feel anxious, wait 10 minutes before texting. See if the feeling passes.
And for avoidant attachment?
Practice staying when you want to run. When you feel the urge to create distance, notice it. Name it. "I'm feeling scared of closeness right now." Then choose consciously.
What about fearful-avoidant?
That one's harder because it's more complex. I'd say finding a good therapist is really important for fearful-avoidant attachment.
Because there's usually deeper trauma to process?
Yes, self-help can only go so far. Sometimes you need professional support.
And that's okay.
That's more than okay. That's wisdom. Knowing when you need help is a strength, not a weakness.
I think we should talk about something important before we finish.
What's that?
You can't fix someone else's attachment issues.
Oh, that's crucial.
Because I think a lot of people hear this information and think, oh, my partner is avoidant. I'm going to help them heal.
Yes, and that becomes a trap.
Because you can't do someone else's emotional work.
No, you can support them. You can be patient, but you can't heal them.
They have to want to change.
Exactly. And not everyone is ready to look at their patterns.
So what do you do if you're in a relationship with someone who won't work on their attachment issues?
You have to decide if you can accept the relationship as it is.
Not as you hope it will become.
Right. Because hoping someone will change is different from someone actively changing.
That's a painful truth.
It is, but it's also respectful. You can't force growth.
You can only decide if you want to stay or go.
And both choices are valid.
Staying isn't weakness.
And leaving isn't failure.
You're just choosing what's right for you.
I think that's a beautiful place to begin our word journey.
Yes. Let's revisit some of the key vocabulary from today.
Let's start with a phrase we used early on: protective mechanism.
A protective mechanism is a behavior your mind uses to keep you safe from emotional pain, even if that behavior creates different problems.
For example, pushing people away is a protective mechanism against rejection.
Or making jokes during serious conversations is a protective mechanism against vulnerability.
Repeat: protective mechanism.
Next, let's look at the word trigger.
A trigger is something that activates an emotional response based on past experiences.
For example, if your ex cheated on you, your new partner being late might trigger anxiety about betrayal.
Or if you were criticized as a child, feedback at work might trigger shame.
Repeat, trigger. Now, an important skill, self-soothe.
To self-soothe means to calm yourself down without needing someone else to do it for you.
For example, when you're anxious, you might self-soothe by taking deep breaths, journaling, or calling a friend.
Instead of immediately texting your partner for reassurance.
Repeat: self-soothe.
Let's talk about vulnerability.
Vulnerability means being emotionally open and honest, even when it feels risky.
For example, telling someone, I'm scared of getting hurt, is vulnerability.
Or admitting, I don't know what I'm doing, in a new job.
Repeat, vulnerability.
Next is a phrase: radical honesty.
Radical honesty means being completely truthful, even when it feels uncomfortable or vulnerable.
For example, saying, I felt hurt when you didn't call, instead of pretending everything is fine.
Or admitting, I'm jealous, instead of denying it.
Repeat: radical honesty.
An important concept, the anxious-avoidant trap.
The anxious-avoidant trap is a relationship pattern where one person pursues closeness while the other withdraws, creating a cycle that triggers both people's fears.
The more the anxious person chases, the more the avoidant person runs.
And the more the avoidant person runs, the more anxious the other person becomes.
Repeat, anxious-avoidant trap.
Pause. Let's look at the word reciprocate.
To reciprocate means to return the same feeling or action that someone has given you.
For example, if someone says, I love you, and you say it back, you're reciprocating their feelings.
Or if someone helps you move, and later you help them, you're reciprocating their kindness.
Repeat: reciprocate.
An important word, disorganized.
In attachment theory, disorganized attachment is another name for fearful-avoidant attachment.
It means someone both desperately wants closeness and desperately fears it.
Their attachment patterns are conflicted and sometimes contradictory.
Repeat, disorganized.
And finally, let's talk about the phrase earned secure attachment.
Earned secure attachment means you didn't start with secure attachment patterns, but through therapy, self-work, and healthy relationships, you developed them.
For example, you grew up with inconsistent parents, but through years of therapy and self-reflection, you now have secure attachment.
You weren't born with it, but you earned it.
Repeat. Earned secure attachment. Those were some powerful words from today.
They really were. And I hope they help you understand not just relationships, but yourself.
Because attachment isn't destiny.
No, you can change, you can grow, you can heal.
It takes time and it takes work, but it's possible.
So if this episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the Archetype Archive.
And leave a like if you learned something today. It helps us reach more people who might need this message.
And please, share your story in the comments. Did you recognize your attachment style?
Or maybe you recognize someone you love.
Remember to comment just the word "seen" if this episode spoke to you.
We read every comment. Your stories matter to us.
Take care of your heart.
And take care of the people you love. This is Maya.
And this is Jordan. And you've been listening to the Archetype Archive.
Until next time.
Bye.